Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. Today I have a lot to talk about. I get asked a lot if I think Bigfoot's more animalistic or more human-like. It's a big question in the Bigfoot world, and there's a lot of people on both sides. Personally, I don't like to take sides and say I think it's definitely this or definitely that, because we just don't know and we don't have the hard evidence. I'm more inclined to believe that Bigfoot is somewhere in between animal and human. One of the big theories is that Bigfoot is a descendant of Gigantopithecus. And when I first kind of got into this subject, I didn't really buy into that. I kind of just imagined Bigfoot as its own thing. But after years of looking into it, I'm kind of leaning more towards it being a descendant of Gigantopithecus. Now, we kind of have to look at where Gigantopithecus stands in the history of things. It wasn't, one of our ancestors. Nowadays they think it's more closely related to orangutans. Though maybe not directly an ancestor of the orangutan, but somewhere closer to that. That's the thinking nowadays. They were able to do studies on the teeth. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know exactly how they conducted this, but based on scientific research and studies, they are able to say that it's closer to orangutan. And the general consensus in the scientific community is that Gigantopithecus most likely walked on all fours. Based on the jaw, which the jaw is apparently a U-shaped. Very similar to human, but just much bigger. If you compare the Gigantopithecus jaw to a jaw of like a gorilla or an orangutan, it's a lot wider in the back. And Grover Kranz's argument was that the jaw was wider in the back like ours because Gigantopithecus stood upright and its jaw was squared off to its windpipe. Not, with a gorilla, the head is kind of forward. It's not squared, right? It's kind of like this, not like that. I don't know, that kind of makes sense to me. Like, it has all the room to fit all this stuff inside of us right here, our esophagus, our windpipe, whatever. So that would indicate it being an upright being. Now, I don't know, there's been 3 jawbones found of the Gigantopithecus and quite a few teeth, like I think the number I heard last was 1,100 teeth. There might be more, I'm not really sure. But I imagine Gigantopithecus kind of having its own lineage alongside humans and alongside orangutans and the ancestors of orangutans. We're still trying to figure out where this creature fits into, the timeline of primate evolution. The only way we're going to know for sure if Gigantopithecus was an upright bipedal creature is to find the whole skeleton. And the skeletons have to be out there. If we're finding jaws and teeth, there has to be other remnants. Another thing that Bigfoot researchers believe is that Gigantopithecus would have migrated along the Bering Land Bridge into North America, and that's how it got here, similar to Homo sapiens. Based on my research and what I've read, it appears that a lot of early human remnants were found in caves. In fact, the vast majority of remnants were found in caves, like the Bluefish Cave in the Yukon. Early humans utilized caves a lot, and Gigantopithecus, a lot of the remnants were found in caves in China and I think in parts of India. There's actually 3 different species of Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus blacki was the massive one. Apparently the biggest primate to ever walk the earth. And there was another species that was, they think, about half the size. So Gigantopithecus blacki is the one that they think could potentially be an ancestor of Bigfoot, if Bigfoot is real. But anyways, if they're finding Gigantopithecus remains in caves, and here we find a lot of early human remains in caves, I think it would make sense to look for Bigfoot evidence or remains in caves. Because if we find like a jawbone or a skull of a Sasquatch, That would be huge. That would be the hard evidence we need. It took a jawbone to prove Gigantopithecus was a real creature. If we could find something like that in North America, in a cave, in an undiscovered cave somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, like, I think what my plan is for the summer, instead of being focused on having a Bigfoot experience and getting like great Bigfoot footage, there's so many other people out trying to do that. You know, they want to get Bigfoot on camera, they're looking for tracks, they're looking for tree breaks, tree structures. It might be worth focusing my energy on something more tangible, like looking for caves up in the mountains that haven't really been explored or discovered even. In the mountains west of the habituation site in Nordegg, apparently, I've been told that there's a cave full of bones, and that's where the Sasquatch winter. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's definitely worth checking out, and I have big plans this summer to explore that specific area and try to find this cave or any caves. And just focusing on that, something tangible that you know is out there, that there's caves out there. But I think I should focus that energy more on finding physical remains of one of these creatures, instead of trying to like lure them in and making noises. Because chances are, like, if you're making noises and you're out there filming and trying to have an encounter, they already know you're there, meaning they'll probably just avoid you at all costs. I feel like if you're gonna have a Sasquatch encounter, it'll most likely be to their surprise. Like, you've snuck up on them somehow, and it's by accident that you have an encounter. Most of the time, you know, there's people that claim to be able to bring them in and they habituate them and they're able to communicate to a degree, they're gifting each other and whatnot. But can you imagine finding a jawbone resembling that of Gigantopithecus in like Alberta or British Columbia or down in the States? That would be incredibly significant in the scientific community. Finding a jawbone that matches Gigantopithecus, that would be really cool. If we found something like that, we would know, okay, Gigantopithecus migrated into North America. The other way around, if we had people in China looking for Gigantopithecus remains, like, I don't have the resources to go to China and like explore and conduct research there. If we had people that were able to go there and look for Gigantopithecus remains, like the whole skeleton, and if that was found, we'd be able to say, okay, this is most likely an upright hominid. And if Gigantopithecus is an upright creature, we would know alongside the human timeline, there was another being, another hominid, upright bipedal hominid, that was absolutely massive and would very closely resemble what we believe to be Sasquatch. You know? I do have an expedition planned to this certain mountain where there's supposed to be some sort of cave. Just rumors right now. It's what I was told. I'm gonna find out. There's a lot of areas in the Rocky Mountains that haven't really been fully explored because they're just hard to get to, and not a lot of people have the energy to go, you know, walking around an entire mountain checking out all the slopes. Like, if we find a cave with bones in it, that will attract the attention of actual scientists, and they'll take it a lot more seriously than if we're just going out making track casts and, you know, coming up with videos that are shaky and blurry and it's just hard to tell, right? And still doing that, you know, going out looking for these areas, looking for caves, looking for bones or burial sites or whatever, you're out in the wilderness, there still is a good chance that you're going to come across one of these creatures and that you'll find the tracks anyways, right? The chances of having an encounter are pretty much the same as if you were just going out there trying to have an encounter. Anyways, to close all this up, I believe Bigfoot is something alongside of human lineage, not from our direct ancestors and not from the ancestors of, say, an orangutan or a gorilla. I think it's got its own path, and it could be Gigantopithecus. That could be something along that line. We just have to find out if Gigantopithecus was an upright biped or if it was a quadruped, you know? And that is something we can find out because we know the fossils are there. We've found some of them. We just It's just a matter of time before a skeleton is found. And once we know that, then we'll know that there was a giant, upright, bipedal hominid that lived alongside humans. They say the Gigantopithecus went extinct 100,000 years ago, and at that time there was, humans existing. I think the oldest human remains found were from Ethiopia, and they're something like 160,000 years old, between 160 and 180,000 years old. So during the time of Gigantopithecus, there were like almost modern humans. So I don't know. It's very, very interesting. We would have encountered that creature at one point. Did it really go extinct? Who knows? Is Bigfoot related to Gigantopithecus? Very possible, but we don't know. We don't even know for sure if Bigfoot exists. This is all just theories, but I think if it does exist, there's a good chance that it could be directly related to Gigantopithecus. And that is if Gigantopithecus was an upright hominid. Interesting stuff. If I'm wrong about anything, if you guys don't agree with me, if you think my ideas are stupid, by all means write them in the comments. I just think it would be a good idea to maybe explore these areas and focus attention on finding bones, as opposed to going out like every other Bigfoot researcher and trying to have an encounter, or to find tracks and tree breaks. And if we find a jawbone, if we find a tooth, anything that we can take to a scientist and be like, look what I found. How do you explain this? There's something else out there, or was something else out there. That's what we need. We need that hard evidence. Videos don't seem to be doing it, and they're always going to be accused of being a hoax. There's no way of getting around that. But if you have an actual tooth that can be studied, that would be so significant. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching this episode of Mountain Beast Mysteries.